Chapter 1. The Meeting with Mr. Brown. Timmy had been struggling to make friends at school for as long as he could remember. He was a quiet boy, with a love for drawing and painting, and found it difficult to connect with his peers. Despite his best efforts, he always seemed to end up alone at recess or lunchtime. One day, Timmy decided that he couldn't take it anymore. He needed to talk to someone who could help him figure out what he was doing wrong. That's when he remembered Mr. Brown, the wise and kind man who lived in the town of Green Hills. Timmy had seen Mr. Brown around town before, and he had always been struck by how gentle and compassionate he seemed. He decided to pay him a visit and ask for his advice. As Timmy made his way to Mr. Brown's house, he felt nervous and unsure of what to say. He didn't want to sound like a whiny kid who couldn't make friends. But when he arrived, Mr. Brown welcomed him with a warm smile and invited him inside. The inside of Mr. Brown's home was cozy and inviting, with a fire burning in the fireplace and the scent of freshly baked cookies wafting through the air. Timmy felt himself relaxing as Mr. Brown offered him a seat on the couch and poured him a glass of lemonade. "Tell me, Timmy, what brings you to see me today?" Mr. Brown asked, his kind eyes fixed on Timmy's face. Timmy hesitated for a moment before finally blurting out, "I don't have any friends at school. Nobody wants to be my friend." Mr. Brown listened patiently as Timmy poured out his heart, explaining how he felt left out and lonely at school. He could see the pain and frustration etched on Timmy's face, and his heart went out to him. Once Timmy had finished speaking, Mr. Brown sat quietly for a moment, as if deep in thought. Then he smiled gently and began to tell Timmy a story. "Timmy, have you ever heard the story of Joseph?" Mr. Brown asked. Timmy shook his head, unsure of what this had to do with his problem. Joseph was a young man who faced many difficult circumstances in his life, Mr. Brown continued. He was sold into slavery by his jealous brothers and thrown into prison for a crime he didn't commit. But despite all of this, Joseph never lost faith in God. He continued to trust in God's plan for his life and eventually rose to a position of great power and influence in Egypt. Timmy listened intently as Mr. Brown spoke, his eyes growing wide with wonder at the incredible story of Joseph's perseverance and faith. When Mr. Brown finished, he looked at Timmy and said, "Joseph's story teaches us that even when things seem hopeless, we can trust in God to guide us and protect us." Timmy wasn't quite sure what to make of this. He had always believed in God, but he couldn't see how this story would help him make friends. But Mr. Brown seemed so sure of himself, so confident that this was the answer Timmy needed, that Timmy found himself starting to believe too. "Thank you, Mr. Brown," Timmy said as he stood up to leave. "I'll think about what you said." Mr. Brown smiled and patted Timmy on the back. "You're a good kid, Timmy," he said, "and I have a feeling that things are going to work out just fine for you." As Timmy walked home, he felt a sense of peace wash over him. He wasn't quite sure what the future held, but he felt a glimmer of hope in his heart. Maybe, just maybe, he could find a way to make friends and be happy at school. The next day at school, Timmy tried to put Mr. Brown's words into practice. He greeted his classmates with a smile, even though he felt a little nervous. To his surprise, a few of them smiled back and said hello. Timmy felt a surge of confidence as he walked to his desk, feeling like maybe he could make a connection with someone after all. During lunchtime, Timmy sat by himself as usual, but this time he decided to take out his sketchbook and start drawing. He had always been too shy to share his art with anyone, but today he felt brave. One of his classmates, a girl named Lily, noticed his drawing and complimented him on it. Timmy felt a warmth spread through him as he thanked her and they struck up a conversation about their favorite art styles. For the rest of the day, Timmy felt more alive than he had in a long time. He felt like he was on the right path, and he couldn't wait to tell Mr. Brown about his progress. When Timmy arrived at Mr. Brown's house, he burst through the door with a grin on his face. "Mr. Brown, it worked," he exclaimed. "I talked to Lily at lunch and we connected over art. and a few other kids said hi to me in the hallway. I feel like things are finally starting to look up. Mr. Brown smiled and patted Timmy on the back. I knew you had it in you, Timmy, he said. You just needed a little push in the right direction. Timmy felt grateful for Mr. Brown's guidance and knew that he still had a lot to learn. But for the first time in a long time, he felt like he had a friend and a mentor who believed in him. As he walked home that day, he felt like maybe, just maybe, he could handle whatever the future held. Chapter 2. The Invitation. Over the next few weeks, Timmy made a conscious effort to greet his classmates with a smile and engage in conversation whenever possible. He found that he enjoyed learning more about his peers and discovered that they had more in common than he thought. One day, as Timmy was walking home from school, he noticed a flyer on a bulletin board advertising a community fair at the park on Saturday. It sounded like fun, but Timmy didn't have anyone to go with. As he was walking, he heard a voice behind him say, "Hey Timmy, I saw that flyer too. Are you going to the fair on Saturday?" He turned around to see Lily, the girl he had connected with over art a few weeks ago. "I don't have anyone to go with," Timmy admitted. Lily smiled. "Well, I was thinking of going with some of my friends from school. Would you like to join us?" Timmy felt a rush of excitement. "I'd love to," he said. The next day at school, Lily introduced Timmy to her friends, Emma and Jacob. They were friendly and welcoming, and Timmy felt like he had finally found a group of people he could belong to. On Saturday, they met up at the park and spent the day exploring the fairgrounds, trying out all the rides and games. Timmy had so much fun that he didn't want the day to end. As they were walking back to the car, Emma turned to Timmy and said, "Hey, we're having a sleepover next Friday. Do you want to come?" Timmy felt a twinge of anxiety. He had never been to a sleepover before, and the idea of spending the night away from home made him nervous. But then he remembered Mr. Brown's words about stepping outside of his comfort zone. He took a deep breath and said, "Sure, I'd love to." Throughout the week, Timmy couldn't help but feel a bit nervous about the sleepover. He had never spent the night away from home before, and he was worried about how he would do without his usual routine. On the day of the sleepover, Timmy arrived at Emma's house feeling a mix of excitement and anxiety. Emma's parents welcomed him warmly and showed him to the guest room where he would be sleeping. Timmy felt grateful for their hospitality and tried to relax. As the night went on, Timmy had a great time with his new friends. They played board games, watched movies, and had a pillow fight. Timmy felt like he was part of the group and was grateful for the opportunity to make new memories. But as the night went on, Timmy started to feel homesick. He missed his own bed and his family, and he felt like he didn't quite belong in this unfamiliar environment. Emma noticed that Timmy seemed down and pulled him aside. "Are you okay, Timmy?" she asked. Timmy sighed. "I'm just feeling a bit homesick, I guess," he said. Emma put her arm around him. "It's okay to feel that way. I felt homesick the first time I slept over at Jacob's house too. But you're not alone, we're all here for you." Timmy felt comforted by her words and knew that he had made the right decision by stepping outside of his comfort zone. As the night came to an end, he felt grateful for the experience and knew that he had made lifelong friends. When Timmy arrived at Mr. Brown's house for their next lesson, he couldn't wait to tell him about his day at the fair and the invitation to the sleepover. "That's great news, Timmy," Mr. Brown said, smiling. "It sounds like you had a wonderful time and made some new friends." Timmy nodded eagerly. "Yeah, and I even went to a sleepover for the first time." Mr. Brown raised his eyebrows in surprise. "A sleepover? That's great. How did it go?" Timmy shrugged. "It was a bit scary at first, but my friends were really nice and made me feel better. I'm glad I went." Mr. Brown nodded thoughtfully. "It takes courage to step outside of your comfort zone and try new things. And it's not always easy, but when we do, we often discover that there's a whole world out there waiting for us." Timmy smiled, feeling proud of himself for taking that first step. "Thanks, Mr. Brown. I'm excited to keep trying new things." Over the next few weeks, Timmy continued to make new friends and try new things. He joined the school's chess club, went on a camping trip with his family, and even auditioned for the school play. Through it all, Timmy kept Mr. Brown's words in mind and tried his best to be courageous and kind, even when things felt scary or uncertain. And he discovered that the more he stepped outside of his comfort zone, the more he grew and flourished. As the school year drew to a close, Timmy couldn't help but feel grateful for all the experiences he had had and the people he had met. And he knew that he had Mr. Brown to thank for it all. On the last day of school, Timmy approached Mr. Brown's classroom, feeling a mix of excitement and sadness. He had loved his time in Mr. Brown's class and would miss him dearly. As he entered the room, he saw that Mr. Brown had set up a small party for the students. There were balloons and cake and even a few presents. "Congratulations, class," Mr. Brown said, beaming. "You've all worked so hard this year and I'm so proud of you. I have a small gift for each of you as a token of my appreciation." Timmy felt a lump form in his throat as he approached Mr. Brown. "Thank you for everything, Mr. Brown," he said, handing him a homemade card. Mr. Brown's eyes welled up with tears as he read the card. "Thank you, Timmy," he said, giving him a hug. "You've been a joy to teach and I know you'll do great things in the future." As Timmy left the classroom, he felt a sense of gratitude and hope. He knew that he had been blessed with amazing opportunities and wonderful people in his life, and he couldn't wait to see what the future held. And he knew that he would always carry Mr. Brown's words and lessons with him, wherever he went. Chapter 3. The Lesson of Forgiveness. As summer vacation began, Timmy looked forward to all the adventures that awaited him. He had signed up for a soccer camp, a science camp, and even a volunteer program at the local animal shelter. But as the days went by, Timmy began to feel a nagging sense of guilt. He had been so caught up in his own excitement that he had neglected to spend time with his best friend, Mike. Mike had been dealing with some family issues, and Timmy knew that he could have been a better friend. But every time he thought about reaching out to Mike, he felt overwhelmed with guilt and shame. One day, as Timmy was walking home from soccer camp, he saw Mike sitting on a park bench, looking downcast. Timmy's heart sank as he realized how much he had missed his friend. "Hey, Mike," he said, approaching the bench. "What's up?" Mike looked up and gave Timmy a weak smile. "Hey, Timmy." "Not much, just thinking." Timmy sat down next to Mike and they sat in silence for a few minutes. Finally, Timmy spoke up. "Look, Mike, I'm really sorry for not being there for you these past few weeks. I've been so caught up in my own stuff that I forgot about what was going on with you. Can you forgive me?" Mike looked at Timmy with surprise, then with a small smile. "Of course, Timmy. I forgive you. I know you didn't mean to neglect me. And I've been dealing with some tough stuff, but I should have reached out to you too." Timmy felt a weight lift off his shoulders as he realized that Mike still valued their friendship. "Thanks, Mike. I'm glad we can talk about this. And if you ever need someone to talk to, I'm here for you." Mike nodded, looking grateful. "Thanks, Timmy. That means a lot." Over the next few weeks, Timmy made a conscious effort to spend more time with Mike and be a better friend. They went on bike rides, played video games, and even volunteered together at the animal shelter. Through it all, Timmy remembered the lesson of forgiveness that Mr. Brown had taught him. He knew that it was important to take responsibility for his mistakes, but also to show compassion and understanding to those who had wronged him. As the summer drew to a close, Timmy felt grateful for the chance to reconnect with his best friend and to learn the value of forgiveness. He knew that he still had a lot to learn, but he was excited to keep growing and improving. One day, as Timmy was walking to soccer camp, he saw a new kid sitting on the sidewalk, looking lost and alone. Timmy recognized him from school, but they had never spoken before. "Hey, are you okay?" Timmy asked, walking over to the boy. The boy looked up, surprised. Yeah, I'm fine. Just waiting for my mom to pick me up." Timmy smiled. "Cool. I'm Timmy. "What's your name?" The boy hesitated, then replied, "My name's David." "Nice to meet you, David. Do you want to come with me to soccer camp? It's really fun." David looked hesitant, but then he nodded. "Okay, sure, thanks." As they walked to the soccer field, Timmy chatted with David and tried to make him feel welcome. And as they played soccer together, Timmy realized that he was learning another important lesson: the value of kindness. He remembered how Mr. Brown had always gone out of his way to help others, even when it wasn't convenient or easy. And Timmy knew that he could do the same. After soccer camp, Timmy walked home with David and they talked about their favorite video games and movies. Timmy could tell that David was starting to relax and feel more comfortable around him. As they reached David's house, Timmy turned to him and said, "Hey, David, do you want to hang out sometime? Maybe play some video games or something?" David's face lit up with a smile. "Yeah, that would be awesome. Thanks, Timmy." Timmy walked home with a sense of satisfaction and joy. He knew that he had made a new friend, and that he had lived out the values that Mr. Brown had taught him. Over the next few weeks, Timmy and David hung out often, playing video games, riding bikes, and exploring the woods near their houses. Timmy felt grateful for the chance to make a new friend and to share the lessons he had learned about forgiveness and kindness. As the summer came to a close, Timmy knew that he had grown and changed in important ways. He had learned the value of taking responsibility for his mistakes, of showing compassion and forgiveness to others, and of being kind and welcoming to those who were different from him. And as he started a new school year, Timmy felt excited to keep growing and learning, and to see where his newfound values and friendships would take him. Chapter 4. The Big Game. Timmy had been practicing hard for the big soccer game all week. The team had been working together and Timmy was confident they would come out on top. As he arrived at the field, Timmy saw that David was already there, waiting for him. "Hey, Timmy, good luck today," David said with a grin. "Thanks, David," Timmy replied. "I'm feeling pretty good about our chances." The game was intense, with both teams fighting hard for the win. Timmy played his heart out, running up and down the field, making passes, and taking shots on goal. But no matter how hard he tried, the other team seemed to have the upper hand. With just a few minutes left in the game, the score was tied 2-2. Timmy's team had the ball, and Timmy knew that this was their chance to win. He ran forward, calling for the ball, and his teammate passed it to him. Timmy dribbled down the field, dodging defenders left and right. He could hear the roar of the crowd as he neared the goal, and he knew that this was his moment. Just as he was about to take the shot, Timmy felt a hard shove from behind. He stumbled and lost his balance, falling to the ground. The ball rolled away, and the other team grabbed it and ran down the field. The crowd groaned as Timmy got up, rubbing his shoulder where he had been shoved. He felt angry and frustrated. It wasn't fair that the other team had gotten away with that foul. As the game continued, Timmy found himself getting more and more agitated. He was playing more recklessly, trying to make up for his mistake, and he was making careless errors. With just seconds left in the game, the other team scored a goal, winning the game 3-2. Timmy's heart sank as he realized that they had lost. All of his hard work, all of his dedication, had been for nothing. As Timmy walked off the field, he felt a tap on his shoulder. It was David, who had stayed to watch the game. "Hey, Timmy, tough break," David said. "But you played really well out there. You should be proud of yourself." Timmy sighed. "I guess. But we still lost." David put a hand on Timmy's shoulder. "Listen, Timmy, winning isn't everything. You did your best out there, and you showed sportsmanship and teamwork. That's what really matters." Timmy looked up at David, and he realized that his friend was right. Winning wasn't everything. The values that he had learned from Mr. Brown, the values of kindness, forgiveness, and compassion, were more important than any victory. And as he walked home, Timmy felt a sense of peace and contentment. He knew that he had given it his all, and that he had stayed true to the values that he had learned. The big game might have been a loss, but in the end, Timmy had gained something even more important, a deeper understanding of what it meant to be a good person. The next day at school, Timmy walked into his classroom feeling a little down. He was still thinking about the game, and he felt like he had let his team down. As he sat down at his desk, he noticed that Sarah, the new girl in his class, was sitting alone at a nearby table. Timmy remembered how lonely he had felt when he first started at this school, and he decided to go talk to her. "Hi, Sarah," Timmy said with a smile. "How are you liking the school so far?" Sarah looked up, surprised to be spoken to. "Oh, hi Timmy. It's okay, I guess. I just don't really know anyone yet." "Well, I can help with that," Timmy said. "Do you want to come sit with me and my friends at lunch today? We always have room for one more." Sarah smiled, and Timmy felt a warm sense of satisfaction. It felt good to be kind to someone else, to make a new friend and help her feel less alone. As lunchtime approached, Timmy and his friends gathered their lunches and headed outside. Sarah was waiting for them, and she looked relieved and happy to see them. They sat down under a big oak tree and began to eat and chat. Timmy's friends welcomed Sarah warmly, asking her about her interests and hobbies. Timmy felt a sense of pride as he watched them include her in their conversation, and he knew that he had done the right thing. After lunch, Timmy walked Sarah back to class. "Thanks for inviting me to sit with you guys," Sarah said. "I had a really good time." "No problem," Timmy said with a grin. "We're always happy to make new friends." As he walked back to his own classroom, Timmy felt a sense of happiness and contentment. He knew that he had done something good, something that would make a difference in Sarah's life. And he knew that he had learned something important about what it meant to be a good person. That night, as Timmy lay in bed, he thought about all of the things he had learned over the past few weeks. He had learned about forgiveness, about treating others with kindness, about working hard and doing his best. And he realized that all of these things were part of something bigger, something that Mr. Brown had called, living a life of purpose. Timmy didn't fully understand what that meant, but he knew that it had something to do with making the world a better place, one small act of kindness at a time. As he drifted off to sleep, Timmy felt a sense of peace and contentment. He knew that he had a lot to learn, but he also knew that he was on the right path. And he was excited to see where that path would lead him next. Chapter 5. A Lesson in Humility. The next day at school, Timmy was feeling pretty good about himself. He had made a new friend, he had learned some important lessons, and he felt like he was doing a pretty good job of being a kind and responsible person. But as he walked into his classroom, he saw something that made him feel uneasy. There was a new student in class, and he was sitting alone at a desk in the back of the room. He looked nervous and uncomfortable, and Timmy could see that some of the other kids were whispering and giggling behind their hands. Timmy felt a pang of sympathy for the new student. He remembered how it had felt to be the new kid, and he knew how hard it could be to make friends in a new place. But as he walked past the new student's desk, something happened that made Timmy feel very small indeed. The new student looked up at him, and Timmy saw that he was wearing a t-shirt with a logo from a popular TV show that Timmy had never heard of. And as soon as he saw it, Timmy felt a sense of superiority and disdain. "That show is so dumb," he thought to himself. "I can't believe anyone would wear a shirt like that." But then he caught himself. He had learned about judgment and kindness, and he knew that his thoughts were neither of those things. He took a deep breath and walked back to the new student's desk. "Hey," he said with a smile. "I'm Timmy. What's your name?" The new student looked up at him, surprised. "I'm Jake," he said. "Nice to meet you." Timmy sat down in the desk next to Jake's and struck up a conversation. He asked him about the TV show on his shirt, and Jake's eyes lit up as he talked about it. Timmy realized that he had been wrong to judge Jake based on his clothing, and he felt a sense of shame for his earlier thoughts. Over the next few days, Timmy and Jake became fast friends. They discovered that they had a lot in common, including a love of comics and video games. Timmy found himself enjoying Jake's company more and more, and he realized that he had learned an important lesson about humility. He realized that it was easy to feel good about himself when he was helping others or doing the right thing. But it was much harder to feel good about himself when he was judging others or feeling superior. He realized that true kindness and compassion came from a place of humility, a willingness to recognize that everyone had something to offer and that no one was better than anyone else. As he walked home from school one day, Timmy thought about all of the lessons he had learned over the past few weeks. He thought about forgiveness, kindness, hard work, purpose, and humility, and he realized that they were all connected. They all had something to do with being a good person, with making the world a better place, and with living a life of meaning and significance. And he knew that there was still so much more to learn, so much more he could do to be kind and compassionate and humble. But he was excited for the journey, and he was grateful for the lessons he had already learned.